Hey art fiends, welcome back to the channel. Well, this is it, the final video of my OC redesign series. We finally made it to the end of all the characters for this series I had created when I was around 13 or 14 years old. In this video, we will be looking at the last three characters, the three sisters of our main character, Kumori. Kumori is the second oldest of four, and his sisters play a big role in this story, as well as the story of the world itself. Kumori's family were outcasts. Long before the current generation, their family were rulers. They were overthrown by the common folk, and their family went into hiding. What makes them special is that they don't develop their abilities based on bloodline, but on personal preference. Unlike others, they aren't born with their powers, and instead develop them as they grow. This makes the possibilities endless in what powers they may develop, also making them a huge risk. While Kumori developed his darkness abilities after choosing to destroy humanity, his sisters each developed their own different powers. None of them ever agreed with Kumori's choices, and they are all determined to stop their brother from destroying everything. If you want more information on Kumori and the entire plot of this story, please go back and watch the first episode, as well as all the episodes since the first one. There's a lot of information you're missing if you don't watch the other videos. So with that little introduction out of the way, let's get into these last three characters. The first of the sisters we will be looking at is the youngest, Kaie. Being the youngest, she is also the most innocent of these siblings. She isn't really aware of what her brother is up to, or even how society looks down on her family. She's very shy and timid, hiding behind her sisters when they encounter trouble. She prefers spending time with plants, forming her ability to move plants and make them grow. To connect these siblings together, I decided to give each of them the same D&D class to base their outfits on, which was the Sorcerer. This is the class that I used for Kumori, so to keep their outfits similar, I just decided to stick with it. For a pose, I wanted something with little movement that would show off Kaie's timid personality. To include her powers, I had one arm out so that vines could be growing out of the ground below her. Moving into the design, I wanted to stay similar to the originals, but give these sisters a bit more diversity in their hairstyles. Kaie had shortest hair of the girls, so I kept her hair shoulder length. I made it messy as well, similar to how it used to be, but gave her bangs an actual direction to follow. Moving to the outfit, a staple to her old design was the fluffy collar. So to bring something similar into the updated version, I decided to give her a big scarf. Having something around the neck will end up being a constant within these characters, as Kumori wears a hood to cover his neck. Using my references, I liked the idea of a coat for Kaie, something long that she can cover up with. To make it a bit unique, I made it stop at her shoulders, and the tunic she wears underneath is short-sleeved. I added a small drapery part to the tunic for her bottom half to connect it a bit more to Kumori. I also gave her the same belt, adding some wrappings below it to make it a bit more unique. To match with Kumori, I also gave her boots and gloves, another thing that each of these sisters will have in common. They will also each have the same puffy pants. Finally was adding the tail, and that finished the basic design. Moving into colors, there were many changes I wanted to make sure the siblings feel like they were related. The old versions of these characters were each originally based on a different evolution, which meant that they all have vastly different colors. Kaie was based on Eevee, making her very brown. Although brown is similar to black, since black hair is actually just super dark brown, I wanted it to be even more obvious that she shares the same DNA as Kumori. So I ended up making her hair a lot darker of a brown, bringing it closer to black. The eyes were another thing that none of the sisters had in common with Kumori, for the girls all had purple eyes, while Kumori's were red. To make it more connected, I decided to change the purple to a pink, so it would be closer to Kumori's color. Finally, the skin color matches Kumori's exactly, and each of the other sisters will all have the same skin color as well. For her outfit, I wanted to stay in the browns to not stray too far from the origin. I first colored the boots, gloves, and belt, since they were going to be the same color as Kumori's for all of the siblings. Moving to the rest of the outfit, I went for a redder brown for the coat, helping it stand out from the dark brown of her hair. For her tunic, I went with a darker version of this reddish brown, giving the shades some variety. I then used light brown from the gloves and boots as the color for the wrapping around her waist. For the pants, I first tried to match it with the color of Kumori's pants, but it didn't feel connected to her other colors to me. I ended up changing them to be the same color as the tunic. Finally was the accent color. I first tried using a lighter brown, but it didn't feel like it stood out very much. So instead, I decided to use the same yellow I used on Kumori on Kaie as well. This will end up being another connector between the siblings, each of them having the same yellow as an accent on their outfit. So with all of the coloring done, that finished up the youngest of the siblings. So here is Kaie then, and here she is now. Up next, we will be looking at the second youngest sibling, Aisu. The spunkiest of the sisters, Aisu is excitable and adventurous. She's the one who wants to rejoin normal society the most. She's super curious about the world and wants to travel and make friends. She's also very mischievous, always playing pranks on her siblings. Aisu has the ability to control ice, forming from her playful and curious nature. She was always fascinated by snow and would use it to mess with her siblings. Going into the pose, I wanted something fun to show off her personality, but also wanted something that would have her shooting out ice. I ended up posing her mid-step with her arms outstretched, the ice forming around her. Moving into the design, I wanted each of the sisters to have different lengths of hair, and since Aisu was the second youngest, I decided to make her hair the second longest. I kept her middle part, but simplified it to make more sense. To match hairstyles to Kaie, I also made her hair messy. Moving to the clothes, she is the sibling who gets along the best with Kumori, and looks up to him a lot, before she realizes the bad things that he's getting up to. So I wanted to match her outfit more to Kumori's than the others had. So I gave her a cloak and a hood combo to match closely to his outfit. I gave her gloves, boots, a belt, and pants to match as well. I decided to give her a long sleeve shirt like Kumori has to also continue the similarities. To change things up, I gave her this long fabric on the bottom that ends with some tassels. For her shirt, I went with a simple cut down the middle with an open bottom half, finally adding a brooch in the middle of her hood that is holding it all together. Moving into colors, Aisu had a lot of blues, and I didn't want to get too far away from that idea. She was based on Glaceon originally, but the problem with the blue hair is it doesn't match Kumori's black. I did try to give her a darker blue at first, but since I knew what the final character would look like, I didn't want to get too dark. Instead, I decided to stay with the light blues, which will make more sense when we talk about the next sister. For her eyes, I used the same red that Kumori has instead of the new pink color. This helps connect her to Kumori since her hair doesn't really connect them very well. Moving to the clothes, I wanted to use darker blues for her clothing instead of the light blues she originally had. This was to contrast between the light of the hair and the dark of the clothes, as well as it relates again to the next character. I first made her gloves, boots, and belt match with Kumori's. For the cloak, I used a dark blue, but I kept it saturated enough that it wasn't too black. For the shirt, I used a more neutral blue. The pants were based on the light color that Kumori's pants are, but I gave them a blue tint to match with the rest of her outfit. Next, the accent color, the same yellow used on all the other siblings. I then colored the brooch the same as the belt with a light blue inside. I colored in the ice behind her, and that was it for this new design. So here is Aisu then, and here she is now. On to the final character for this entire series. This is Maruto, the oldest of all these siblings. She is also the most mature of the sisters, not only because she is the oldest, but because she had to basically raise her siblings from a young age. She is very no-nonsense and extremely protective of her family. She has the ability to control water, which was formed when she was very young and learned how to care for her siblings from her mother. Starting with a pose, I wanted something that showed her powers, but also showed her maturity. I ended up posing her mid-stride with her arms out to control the water, but with a lot more poise than how Aisu was posed. Moving into the design, Maruto always had the longest hair of the bunch, and that fit with my idea of having all the sisters have different lengths of hair. The one thing I really wanted to work on was how she styled her hair. I mentioned in the last video of this series that Chie looked a lot like another character I had, and Maruto is that character. Their hairstyles were the exact same when I drew them as a kid, so I wanted to really differentiate them with these redesigns. The first thing was not making Maruto's hair as messy as Chie's, keeping it long but straighter. Maruto feels like the kind of person who spends a really long time styling her hair, so even though her sisters all have messier hair, she takes a lot better care of hers. After a lot of contemplating, I finally decided to push Maruto's bangs back into a small ponytail. This definitely gave her that more mature look I was going for, and it's a new hairstyle that I hadn't tried out on any of these characters yet. Moving on to the clothes, I wanted her to have a bit more of a revealing outfit. She is the oldest, the maturest, and the most sure of herself as an adult. She cares a lot about her appearance, so using references of sorcerers with more revealing outfits was very helpful. I gave her a deep V over her chest and kept the top sleeveless. Since she had no cape, cloak, or coat that was long and flowy like her siblings, I decided to give her this long drapery on the bottom of her outfit instead. This also really helped her look more elegant than her siblings do. I also added a collar around her neck, keeping the trend of including things around each of their necks. To help her arms not be so bare, I added a band around her upper arm as a sort of jewelry accessory. She has the same pants, boots, and belt as the others as well, but I made her boots high-heeled instead. For the matching gloves, I decided to change things up for her and make them more like a long sleeve that is tied to one finger. Now, for her colors, Maruto was also originally blue, the difference in her hair being a darker shade than Aisu's. For those wondering, Maruto was based off of Vaporeon. This worked well for matching her to the other siblings since I wanted her hair to be blue to match Aisu's, but also darker to match Kumori and Kaie. I first tried a simple dark blue color, but it felt a bit off to me with her character. I ended up combining Aisu's hair color into the original dark blue, and this gave me more of a turquoise, which I actually liked a lot more. I used the pink color for her eyes, making there an even number of siblings with each eye color. For her outfit, I knew I would be using lighter blues, making her design the opposite of Aisu's. So I colored the entire outfit this nice light blue color. I then used a dark blue for the pants to help them not clash with the rest of the outfit. The gloves, boots, and belt were all given the same colors as the others had. I added the yellow as the accent, and I ended up using it as the inside of her drapery as well. This made it feel more unique than if it had just been a single color. I then decided the bands around her arms would be the lighter brown used on the boots to keep them more neutral. I colored in the water behind her, and that was it for this final redesign. So, this is Maruto then, and here she is now. Well, I did it. I finally finished redesigning all 24 of these old characters of mine. This has been quite the journey, and I'm so glad I could share this process with all of you. I do hope you enjoyed seeing the changes I made in these characters and learning about why I did what I chose to do. This won't be the last you see of these characters. I plan on making an OC history video about every single one of them, and that will definitely be more than one video. I also will definitely be making way more drawings of these characters, so if you want to see those, please be sure to follow me on my Instagram, which is linked in the description down below. You will also find links to all my other socials there, as well as my Patreon, where you can support me for a few bucks a month and get some extra content. If you liked this series, be sure to subscribe because I have a lot more ideas for future redesigning videos for you guys. I also have a series where I talk about the character designs that you guys make. So if you want to check that out too, I'm sure you'll enjoy it. Thank you guys so much for watching this series. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. All the things that the YouTubers say. Peace!